SNAP benefits are set to expire tomorrow for up to 42 million Americans. And while we may see a last-minute deal to ensure November's benefits, the fear and the panic that this has created has revealed a truly devastating reality. This isn't just about a temporary shutdown or a political squabble. This, I believe, is the first tremor of a much larger earthquake, exposing the deep cracks in the very foundation of our nation's food system, something that I've been talking about for a long time, and a system of government assistance that has turned into government dependence for many people. What the threat to SNAP benefits has revealed is a massive hidden crisis of dependency. And in this video, I want to open the discussion so we can begin talking about how this affects every single American and why this is our wake-up call to do something different, whether you receive benefits or not. Instead of focusing our energy on blame, we need to look for common ground and start exploring how we created a system that makes us all so vulnerable and how we can start building a future of true self-sufficiency. So I'll briefly cover what we all know, and that is due to some political deadlock in Congress, the USDA warned the states that without a new deal, there would be no benefits issued in the month of November. At the 11th hour, the Trump administration is saying that November benefits will be paid. But as of today, we still don't know what that looks like and if that is a temporary or a permanent solution. The scale of what is at stake is staggering. We're talking about nearly 42 million people in 22 million households who are staring down at immediate food insecurity. To put that into perspective, that's 1 in 8 Americans who rely on this program. And it's a terrifying thought to be left wondering if the lifeline that they have to food will be cut or not. It's important for us to discuss who would be impacted by this. 2/3 of all SNAP recipients are kids, senior citizens, and disabled people who are the most vulnerable members of our society. Now, it's easy to look at some of the TikTok videos or people who appear to be freeloaders, but that is not the majority of people who are receiving SNAP. And we also have to remember that many of the people who receive benefits have paid into the system. SNAP is really insurance we all pay in with our taxes, and it's meant to be there for assistance for each and every one of us if we fall on hard times or become disabled. Now, I believe that this government assistance that is meant to assist us has turned into government dependence in many cases and for many reasons, and we need to explore all of those. If you think that this crisis only affects those who receive benefits, you need to think again, because halting SNAP benefits would be an economic shockwave, and it would be felt by all of us. There's this multiplier effect that for every dollar that's given out in SNAP benefits, it stimulates $1.50 in economic activity. I don't know this firsthand. This is based on the research I've done. But when you threaten to pull $8 billion out of the economy in a single month, you do threaten to create a vacuum. That money would disappear overnight from the cash registers of local grocery stores, supermarkets, and farmers markets. Think about the small independent grocery store in a rural town or the corner store in a low-income city neighborhood. For many of these businesses, SNAP sales are a huge chunk of their revenue. And a shutdown isn't just a threat to the families receiving SNAP, it's a direct threat to the survival of some Main Street businesses. This would mean less money coming in, leading to cutting hours for employees, and could ultimately lead to layoffs or even closing the doors for some small businesses. So we wouldn't just be taking food off of families' tables, we're threatening the very jobs that keep local economies afloat. And this isn't a targeted cut, it's a bomb waiting to drop on Main Street, and the fallout will hit farmers, truck drivers, stock clerks, and small business owners. So how on earth did we get to a point where this is even possible? The immediate problem may appear to be political gridlock in Washington, but instead of getting caught up in the blame game, we need to ask the more important question: why is our system so fragile in the first place? The threat to SNAP benefits is a symptom of a much deeper issue. For millions of American families, this event isn't a political abstraction. It's a disaster in the making. And it is a disaster created entirely by a system that has become disconnected from the real underlying issues of our nation's failing food and economic policies. The real conversation isn't about which party to blame. It's about why we are all so dependent on a system that can be held hostage at a moment's notice. I'm going to pause here and just ask you to reflect on what self-sufficiency means to you in today's world. Is this something our government provides, or is it something that we, the people, need to start building ourselves? I would love to hear your honest thoughts about this in the comments below. It helps me to understand your perspective. This brings us to that bigger picture, the hidden crisis I mentioned at the start. For decades, we have made choices that have chipped away at our foundation. As a former IT consultant, I saw how we outsourced our manufacturing, hollowing out the middle class under the guise of efficiency. We created a country with a diminished ability to be self-sufficient. This wasn't about profit. It was a move that made us dependent on global systems. And the exact same thing has happened with our food. Following my years in IT, I became a health coach and have spent 17 years digging into our food system. What I found is terrifying. We have been set up to be dependent on global trade with policies right here in the US driving our own farmers bankrupt. We are not self-sufficient. We are not a self-sufficient nation. Imports make up a staggering portion of the food on our shelves, and over half of our fresh fruit and vegetables available in the US are now imported. Just look at the state of our economy. Our jobs report still shows that we're losing manufacturing jobs. The tech sector is laying people off by the thousands. Just this week, Amazon, UPS, jobs we never thought that would be cut. And on top of this, we're facing the AI disruption, the technological revolution that is predicted to eliminate millions more jobs. This is a deeper issue. We have an economy built on shaky ground and a food system that is dangerously dependent on other countries. At the exact moment we should be focused on building resilience, we have just witnessed how fragile our current support systems are. Behind all these numbers are real people facing impossible choices. But it's even deeper than that, because as a health coach specializing in processed food addiction, I know that for many, the only affordable and accessible foods are the hyper-palatable, nutrient-poor, processed foods that fill those center aisles of the grocery store. These foods are engineered to be addictive. They affect our health and our mental state, and they cause real withdrawal symptoms. So when the money for food is threatened, it's not just a hunger crisis. This, for many, will be a physiological crisis. This adds a layer of volatility and desperation to an already unbearable situation. Before we point fingers, let's all take a step back. The data shows that SNAP recipients who can work do work. They're trapped in low-wage jobs with unstable hours. A threat to their benefits doesn't punish people for being lazy. It terrifies working families, seniors, children, and the disabled, all while locking them into a food system that harms their health. We've been set up to be dependent, and the most vulnerable are paying the price. So what's the solution? Well, I imagine there will be band-aids put over this immediate crisis, and we'll wait for Washington to say that they have a fix for the system that they broke. The real solution and the only path forward begins in our own backyards and our own kitchens. We need to break our dependence on processed foods and fragile global supply chains. It's time to cultivate resilient communities. This is where we take our power back. This looks like permaculture projects, turning lawns into food-producing gardens. It looks like neighborhood food networks where people share their skills and their harvests. It looks like supporting our local farmers and starting community gardens. This is how we begin to solve the food and health crisis from the ground up. This isn't just theory, it's about learning practical skills. And this is why I say even my cooking program at Freedom Kitchen is the competitive advantage. It is how we teach independence and self-sufficiency. We first must learn how to cook if we're going to use real whole food ingredients. Then we can source those ingredients better, and then we can grow those ingredients. We need to have food because freedom begins in our kitchen. Have you ever heard the saying, "He who controls the food controls the people"? Well, this is the path to true freedom. The near halt of SNAP benefits isn't a minor story. This is a massive economic event. But more importantly, it's a red flashing warning light for the entire country. It exposes the fragility of a system that has made us dependent on foreign manufacturing, dependent on global food supplies, dependent on processed foods that make us sick, and then dependent on a medical care system. We won't go there in this video. We have to demand better, not just from our politicians, but from ourselves. It's time to come together and start building a nation that is truly self-sufficient, community by community. If you want to learn how to break your dependence on processed foods and how to cultivate resilient local food systems, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell because I'll be releasing more videos on these exact topics. And please share this video. The more people who can understand what's really going on, the faster we can move from a state of dependence to one of true independence. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.